Hi guys, Sandy here. Today we are going to talk about taking a top pattern and making it into a dress. So I have this really old Butterick pattern 3031 and I have made this top a couple of times. It's made for a woven. I made a sample garment which I wasn't really crazy with, so I made some adjustments to make it fit better, and I actually finished with this garment and I put a placket zipper in it because this pattern is a pullover, but if you're using a woven for a pullover, it's really hard to get it over your head. So what I did was I put a placket zipper in this, and I have a video showing you how to put a side placket zipper in, and I will link that down below. So now with this placket zipper, you can get a really good fit. You can put darts in the front, darts in the back, however you want it to fit your body. So I'm really happy with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pattern that I've altered now to fit, and I'm going to turn it into a dress. All right, so I have a dress that I love. This is a knit swing dress, so I have to be careful not to stretch it when I'm measuring it. And it's a high-low. It's got a pretty big swing line at the bottom, and it's got a high-low hem, so it's longer in the back than it is in the front. So this is going to be my pattern along with the top piece for this. So I'll show you how to put those two together. And then what I have is this fabric. It's a faux silk, and it's actually got a little bit of stretch in it, and it's from Joann's. So this is going to be my inexpensive trial. I'm sure it will be great because I'm using patterns that I really like, and I have 51 inches, so I have about 1.5 yards. Whoops, I didn't measure that quite right. Yeah, 52 inches. I only have 1.5 yards of this. So in order to make this dress, which is long and pretty wide at the bottom, we're going to need to do some fancy maneuvering with cutting out. So the first thing I'm going to do is, and this is a two-way pattern, so I can flip my pattern pieces around, which is going to make this easy enough to cut out. So I'm going to fold the selvage edge, that's the edge with the markings on it, and I'm going to fold it until it's wide enough to hold the bottom of my dress. And I'll show you what I mean. So I could measure this dress, measure the hip, measure the hem. Ugh, that's so much work. So I'm going to take this dress and I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to make sure that I line up the underarms. I'll put a little pin in there. And I'm going to line up the hemline. Now I could use this dress as a pattern, but I want the top to look like the tank top that I made. So instead of the top that looks like this. So I'm going to kind of franken them together. So I want to make sure this is folded well and it's straight because I don't want this off grain too much, although this is a fairly inexpensive fabric, so it's pretty off grain anyway. And I'm going to lay the folded part of my dress on the folded part of the fabric. And I'm going to go down to the bottom because I need to make sure that I have enough fabric over there to be able to do the back. And I'm doing the front first because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to make the back. So this takes a little bit of work. We're going to fussy this and make sure that we're happy with the way everything is laying. So you see how this comes right to the edge of my fabric? Right here, right to the edge of the selvage. So I'm using as little fabric as possible, and then this folded edge of my dress is on the folded edge of the fabric. All right, so now I have this line, which I like, this lengthened line, and I'm going to take, this is the front we're doing right now, so I'm going to take the front pattern piece that I have from this Butterick top. So it's this one right here. I'm going to take the front pattern piece and I'm going to lay it down on top of the dress. Now remember, this is for a woven, this is a stretch, so this is going to be wider than this because this has negative ease. All right, so this top piece up here is a little wider. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to anchor that down. I forgot my weights. So I'm going to anchor them all together, making sure that all the fold lines are together, right? I'm lining up the shoulder seam here. I'm going to line it up with the dress, give myself a seam allowance. All right, so I'm kind of lining up this shoulder seam up here. It's a little off camera. Lining up this shoulder seam. I'm overlapping the pattern just a little bit because there is like a 3/8 inch seam allowance there. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trace around the pattern. Be very careful you don't cut your dress. That would be sad. I'm going to trace around the arm because I'm going to use this pattern. I just want to use this extension down here for the dress. So what I'm going to do is, I know this is the end point that I want, and this is the junction where the pattern and the dress come together. So I'm going to kind of blend that a little bit, and that's going to be my cutting line. I'm just going to kind of move my little dress out of the way. And I'm going to blend this up. Now, if you're going to make this dress more than once, I would suggest making a pattern. I am going to make this once. I can't imagine making it a second time. My rotary cutters are always awful. My blades are always a mess. So I'm going to go up around the pattern piece. But essentially, what I wanted is the shape of this skirt. My rotary cutter leaves like all these little tiny nubbies that don't come apart. I'm brutal on them. So I'm going to separate this because I can get it out of the way. All right, so now I have this nice line, right? And I want to also make the hem. I like this scalloped hem. This scalloped hem that's in the front here. So I'm going to take my French curve and I'm going to lie it along the hemline. That's pretty good, right? I'm going to follow the curve of that front hemline. So now I'm going to just lift up my skirt so I don't cut it because I do like that dress. You know, I just put a new blade in this rotary cutter not that long ago. There we go. So this has got a nice little curve to it. It's very similar to the front of the dress. And I'm going to mark my armhole here with my scissors. So I've cut out all the sides and I just put a little square snip in where my pattern is at the underarm so I can remove my dress. I'm going to take the dress off and then lay this pattern piece back down so I can get the top, so the armhole and the neck edge that I want. So I'm just laying the pattern piece back down where that little clip is, and then I'm just going to cut this out. And you can see where I've made adjustments on this pattern. I shortened the piece from the shoulder to the neckline here, but I lengthened the top part because I wanted to lower the dart. The dart was too high. I was unhappy with that. So I made a couple of changes to this. And so now what I have is this top, which I love the neckline of, but I have the bottom of my yellow dress, which I also love. So there's the front of my dress. I'm going to mark the darts in and yeah, sew that together. So now I am going to do the back. So I'll set that aside. And what I need to do is I need to refold, set that aside. I need to refold this fabric and I'm going to reverse the dress so it goes on the other side. All right, so I've laid the back piece down a couple of times and I'm struggling with it a little bit. So I'm going to lay it open just because there's so many cuts and funny little angles, because I know it fits. I just need to make it work. So I'm going to do it open, then I will have a better chance of getting it right, which is really what we want. We want to get it right. Well, it's nice I have that little bit over there. I'll have enough to be able to use a self-binding, which I think really makes a dress look, a homemade garment looks much more high-end. So if I lay this down like this and get it, I know I'm going to have to use the front because I'm not going to be able to get this high-low hem. It's going to have to be the same length all the way around. I just don't have enough fabric to make that happen. I'm okay with that. And I'm going to make the back a little more narrow than it was. Okay, well, I might get a little high-low out of it. Not much. Not much. And I'm going to end up cutting this angle off just a smidge in the back, which is okay. So I'm going to do it on both sides, right? Because I need this to fit. So I'm just going to fold up that bottom edge a little bit because I'm going to make it fit. Now for the top, which I need to drag down here. Okay, there we go. Almost. Let's pull it down a little bit more. There. So the top of this back goes out to here, and I need to make sure that I have enough room on both sides. So it's right at the edge here on this side, because this top is made for a woven and this is a knit, so it's smaller. So I'm going to find the center of my neckline so I can line up. So there's the center of my back neckline. All right, I have a pin there. There's the center of my back neckline. This is made on the fold. So I'm going to line my pattern up right on that fold. And I have a little bit of room over here. I want to make sure that before I cut it, I have enough room on this side. And wow, that is like right on. Okay. So I'm going to set my pattern piece. The center back fold is lined up with the center back of my yellow dress, and the shoulder seam is just 3/8 of an inch down from my shoulder. Whoop. So I'm happy with that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut half of the dress and then fold it over so then it will be symmetrical. So remember, we took our ruler, and I'm just going to take this down to wherever I can. I'm going to start at the underarm, and I'm going to take it down as far as I can. And I'm using the underarm of the pattern for the top, the tank top. Let's see how my rotary cutter did this time. I swear I put a new blade in it every week. All right, now that I've recut where my rotary cutter was, I'm going to cut along the shoulder of the armhole, not the shoulder, the armhole following my pattern. Don't cut your underdress. And I'm going to cut the shoulder. Now I need to cut this neckline, not this neckline. So to do that, to mark it, I'm just going to put a clip here so that matches the top of my shoulder seam for the tissue. All right. And then I know that this is the middle because that's where I pinned it on my dress. So that's going to be my fold line. This is okay down here. I need to fix this curve on my dress, but I'll do that when I fold it in half. So I'm going to remove the tissue, and I'm going to remove my dress. And now I have my side panel and I have to cut my neckline out, sorry. Side panel, and we'll line this back up again and cut out the neckline. So I remove my dress, and I'm going to line my tissue back up on the dress fabric, the way it's supposed to go. There we go. And cut my neckline. Now, I'm only going to cut it to here because we're only doing one side of the dress, right? So I'm going to cut my neckline to the center seam. I'm going to move my pin there so I know that that's where I have to fold. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to put that away. I'm going to fold this in half. So I have my pin here so I know that's where my fold line is. I'm going to make this nice and neat. So I get this folded in the right spot as best I can. You know, we're using up leftover fabric. We're making a swing dress, essentially, out of 1.5 yards of fabric. So you have to be a little creative and you have to be flexible. So this is all lined up, and I'm going to use this half of my pattern, the half that I cut out, as my pattern. Make sure you take that pin out so you don't run your scissors through it. Stuff is slippery. All right, let's see how much we missed here. Oh, not so bad. There's a little gouge out of that. So I will even those sides out because they need to be the same. Right, so I was short a tiny bit of fabric here. There's a little gouge. So what I'm going to do is just slide this over and make these sides all the same. And then I'm going to take my French curve and I'm going to mimic that curve that I had on the front. And I'm going to make this as long as I can. So this is my center back. I'm going to go to the very edge of that fabric that I have right here, because this is extra, and I'm going to make this curve as long as I can. So I'm going to start with the center, because we can always adjust this. If I make it as long as I can, then I will be able to shorten it if I have to once the dress is made. Oh dear, this rotary cutter is just not good. Not good. So I still have a little bit of a curved hem. Once I put them together, if I need to shorten it up a little bit, I will. That's fine. That's easy enough to do. But since I had, you know, we're playing fast and loose with the fabric that we have, I am just going to even up these side seams so I eradicate that little gouge that's in there. All right, I'm going to give my rotary cutter one more chance to behave. Take my ruler and just try to trim this up so it's even on the left side and the right side. See how bad it is. Ugh, so bad. I love my rotary cutter, Like I said, I go, for some reason, I'm hard on it. I think I run it over my ruler too often, and I just go through a lot of blades. But even being miserable, it still does a better job than scissors, because you can see I have a nice cut there now. So that's my back piece. So that's pretty much all there is to it, to extending the dress. And, you know, if you're looking for zero waste options, this is a great way to do this. So now I have this fabric at 1.5 yards. I have a front, I have a back, and these are essentially all the scraps that I have left, and I'm going to use these to make binding. So by the time I'm done, and I can make I just need a couple of strips of binding for the armholes and for the neck edge. So by the time I'm done, there will be almost no fabric left. So this is, you know, it's slow fashion. This dress is going to last me for a couple of years. It was pretty easy to make, and it's going to use up almost all of the fabric. I mean, I could have bought 2 yards, and I could have easily made the dress, but I would have had quite a bit of fabric left over. And for what? You know, a little piece like this, what can you do with it? So people tend to throw them away, or then you end up with boxes and boxes of scraps floating around that you never use. So this is going to be absolutely perfect. So here we have this little stretch, silky, crepey fabric from Joann's that was probably no more than, you know, $10, $12 a yard. And then, you know, they always have coupons, so things are pretty inexpensive. I'll see if I can find it and put it up, but I've had it for a while, so I'm going to guess that it's not available, but we'll see. I'll take a look for it. So I'll let you know how the dress turns out. It's got 2 darts, 2 side seams, shoulder seams, and then just binding around the neck and the armholes and a hem, and it's done. Super cute, and I can't wait to have some good weather so we can actually go out and wear it.